Hey arty friends, so I just cleaned up, redid my watercolor palette for 2018. Always nice to have a nice fresh start. I have several pans of new colors that have been filled from the tube. You can see sort of the messier looking ones, those are it. So the next thing I need to do is a really important step. I need to create a key, a color key. And to do that, I have a piece of Montvol watercolor paper, and I chose Montvol because this is the paper I paint my Cara pages on, and those are the pages where color accuracy is the most important. So the paper I use the most is the paper I'm going to use for the key. And I've already cut it down to size so that it will fit in the lid. And the first thing I want to do is I want to use a spritzer bottle of just plain water. I want to activate all the colors. So I'm going to give them all a little spritz. You can also activate the colors just by dropping a drop of water in them, but that can also kind of corrode away the colors. So for this, I just want a little spritz. Give that a couple seconds. I have here a squirrel hair brush. I also have a cup of clean water, and I have a napkin to help me wash everything off. So this is very simple but very important. I'm gonna move everything over so you can kind of see what I'm doing. I'm just going to work in color order. And grab the color and fill it in. Clean my brush, dab it off in case there's any residual color, and just work my way through the ranks doing that. And if you want, you can write down the color names and the brands, but what I do is Winsor & Newton screens that information on their half pans, and then if I self-fill a pan, I will write that on the side of the pan using a Sharpie. So for me, that information isn't necessarily necessary for my key. And you want to kind of make sure all your colors correspond with where they are in the palette, and that's important because you may decide, see, I've left holes in here. Those are areas that I'm going to want to fill with other colors as they come along. And when I was setting up this palette, I used an empty half pan to help me measure out the right amount of space. And then when I'm putting these pans in, I use a piece of double stick tape. You can also use washi tape just to hold them in place, because I've found that even when you crimp, the metal crimps at the top, it doesn't necessarily do a very good job of holding everything in place. And I'm going to work my way through this one row at a time. And you may decide you want to switch out your water part of the way through. And the reason we activate these colors ahead of time is some of these colors need a moment, a lot of these colors in fact, need a moment to sort of activate so that you can get good color accuracy. I'm also, see, I have one whole pan in there with sort of a sky blue in it. I'm also painting the whole pan as a whole pan. Alright, so I'm going to do that for the rest of this palette. Now, if you're the sort of person who is very fastidious and a little more finicky than I am, you can use a ruler or print out a grid system that is, perfectly aligned, and you can just fill in the blocks. But I find that this system works perfectly well for me, since it's really just meant to be a color key, a reminder of what each pan looks like, because not all of them look like the color they swatch as. So that's an important reminder, especially if you've just done a new palette. And I recommend that if you're like me and you're trying out new colors, that you leave spaces in your palette. Don't shove it all together. And you guys will also notice that I have everything kind of neatly grouped by color families. I would definitely like to put in some better reds. I'm still kind of field testing some better reds, but I left the space to actually do it. And I'm also out of a couple of colors, Holbein Cherry Red and Winsor & Newton Van Dyke Brown specifically. And I left room in my palette for those. So I hope this has inspired you guys, maybe given you a helpful tip. Even if you're purchasing a pre-made palette, this sort of swatching can really help you better utilize what you have and better understand the colors that you're working with. I'm going to let these dry, since, as you guys probably know, watercolors dry a little lighter and a little duller than they go down. But right now I have some beautiful, vivid, vibrant colors. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you're interested in watercolor, make sure you head on over to natosoup.blogspot.com to check out my watercolor basics series and check out some of my other watercolor tutorials, tips, and tricks here on this channel. Have a great day, guys. Bye.